In just the last week, comedians Bill Maher and Kathy Griffin have weathered firestorms about offensive language, and in Griffin's case, a disgusting photo of her holding the simulated severed head of President Trump. But 50 years ago, a Suncoast resident and his brother were the objects of similar attention over their satire about the Vietnam War. Satire, as Adam Cellini reports, that by today's standards was hardly offensive.
50 years ago, Tom and Dick Smothers burst onto the scene with the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. Through a combination of music, monologues, and sketches, they had audiences rolling and millions tuning in every week.
I'm going into big-time crime. I'm going into big-time crime.
But they also made enemies for satirizing heavier topics like the war in Vietnam. So instead of a fourth season, the show was canceled in 1969.
CBS and people like that were so concerned about their advertisers, about what was wholesome back then. It was there were your mom and dad slept in separate beds on TV.
Scott Novotny started comedy 10 years after the Smothers Brothers show, watching audiences change over the decades to where now hardly anything is censored on television. But he says comics still have to earn a reputation to take on certain topics.
Religion and politics, for example, is a good thing to probably just stay away from if that's what you wanted. But if you're Dennis Miller, we walk in accepting the fact that you're going to be a political comedian.
In the same decade as the Smothers Brothers, Canadian intellect Marshall McLuhan coined the phrase, "The medium is the message." Years later, his protege, Neil Postman, would apply that to television as a medium for political discourse. Postman concluded that political philosophy on the television was impossible because the medium, with its images and sounds, distracted viewers away from the message. Now, political science professor Jack Riley says there's a new medium distorting audiences even more.
The huge part of that are the social networks that we're embedding ourselves in.
The internet, according to Riley, creates echo chambers where like-minded individuals can connect and shut out those who disagree.
A lack of exposure to a diversity of opinion can lead to a demonization of the other side in some way. So we end up in a politics that's more tribal in some way.
President Trump capitalized on some of this during his campaign, and it's motivated some supporters to lash out against opposition ever since. When Stephen Colbert gave a heated monologue recently, it had many demanding his resignation from The Late Show.
You have more people marching against you than cancer. Your presidential library is going to be a kid's menu in a couple of Jugs magazine.
Harsh words, but nothing new, Riley says.
I have a lot of students, for example, that want to talk a lot about how politics is more nasty than it ever was before, and I always remind them that, like, in the 1800s, we had senators beating each other with canes on the Senate floor, right? So, like, a lot of this is just like politics as usual.
Candace McKellia has noticed the negative material hurting comedians could actually be helping politicians. Her PR firm's theory of focusing on short, positive messages for TV has recently been turned on its head.
Nowadays, there's a lot of people that really are shooting from the hip, and people are saying whatever they want to say, and those are the messages that are getting through.
Novotny believes comedians will always be safe as long as the First Amendment is in our Constitution. He says comedy should serve as a referee between opposing sides on any polarizing issue.
Comedy has that sense of negotiation to make things a little, it's okay. We have our beliefs, we get it, let's have some fun.
It's what the Smothers Brothers tried to tap into with their show. Confident America could, if nothing else, keep its sense of humor.
You took it literally. You have to learn to read between the lines.
I've read between the lines.
And what do you find?
Nothing.
In Sarasota, Adam Cellini, ABC7, your Suncoast News.